It's a small sphere. It's about 1.68 inches or larger, and it has a lot of valleys or dimples in the surface.
This began with an accident. A golf ball got dented, a few marks here and there. Nothing unusual. But when it was struck, it traveled farther than any smooth ball had before. That was in 1905. Since that moment, golf balls have never gone back. Those little dimples didn't just change the game. They revealed a hidden truth, a way to bend air, to shape motion, to make things move faster, steadier, and even quieter. And now, that same discovery is being tested on propellers, airplane wings, and ships the size of cities. It looks simple, but it isn't, because air doesn't like to be controlled. Let's explore. A puzzle in the wind. It all started with a strange question. Why did old, battered golf balls travel farther than new, flawless ones? William Taylor, an English optician, couldn't let it go. He wasn't trained in engineering. He didn't work in aerodynamics. Yet he built a wind tunnel from scratch and filled it with smoke just to watch the air swirl. What he saw was astonishing. The dented balls didn't resist the air. They worked with it. The tiny marks guided the flow, parting it like a stream around a stone. Soon, manufacturers added dimples on purpose. Each was carefully placed to direct the air. By reshaping the invisible boundary around the ball, they cut drag and doubled the distance it could travel. But this was never just about sport. Taylor had uncovered a principle far larger than golf, one that would later influence planes, cars, and ships. If dimples could carry a ball through the sky, what could they do for machines that drive our world? The mystery left the fairway. It entered the laboratories of engineers, and they paid attention. The hidden hand of drag. Drag is unseen, but it never disappears. Every object moving through air or water feels it. A pull, a grip, a silent thief of energy. There are two main kinds. One is pressure drag. It happens when air breaks away from the surface, leaving a low-pressure pocket behind, sucking the object backward like a ghost parachute. The other is skin friction drag. The simple resistance you feel when you push your hand through water. The faster you go, the harder it pushes back. Designers try to escape both with streamlined shapes. Airplane wings, turbine blades, ship hulls. But drag is always waiting. That's where dimples come in. They don't erase drag. In fact, they increase friction slightly. But in return, they cut down the bigger enemy, pressure drag. The wake behind the object shrinks, and the backward pull weakens. For a golf ball, the trade is worth it. Less drag means longer flights, straighter shots, and more control. But could that principle stretch beyond spheres? That was the next challenge: dimples and turbulent skins. At first glance, dimples look wrong. They ruin the smooth surface. They look like damage. But they're doing something subtle. As air moves across a surface, it forms a boundary layer, an invisible film, just millimeters thick, where the air slows down and decides whether to cling or break away. If it lets go too early, a wake forms, creating pressure drag. Dimples intervene. They stir the boundary layer, making it turbulent. Turbulent air seems chaotic, but it has more energy. It clings longer, following curves that smooth air would abandon. The result? The wake is smaller, the drag weaker. Dimples don't fight the air. They whisper to it. They keep it attached just a bit longer. But this trick only works on round, blunt shapes, like balls. On thin, sharp edges like wings or blades, the main drag is friction, the very kind dimples worsen. That's where things got complicated and fascinating. When golf balls took flight, so researchers carried the idea into wind tunnels, into software, into experiments. Could Dimples help blades? Could they improve drones or propellers that cut cleanly through air? The answer wasn't obvious. Airfoils are already streamlined. They don't leave big wakes like spheres do. Adding roughness seemed pointless, or worse, harmful. Remember, Dimples increase skin drag, yet testing continued. In 2020, simulations of dimpled propeller blades, like those used on drones, gave surprising results. At steep angles where airflow usually falters, the Dimples steadied it. The lift-to-drag ratio rose nearly 40%. This wasn't about distance anymore. It was about control, about keeping air useful at its breaking point. That shifted the conversation. Dimples weren't just a trick for balls. They were tools, waiting for the right place and purpose. And the biggest surprise wasn't in the sky. It was hidden in the sea. The discovery that rescued ships. Water is less forgiving than air, and it punishes flaws brutally. Large ships and submarines fight a constant enemy: cavitation. When propellers spin fast, water pressure near their edges can drop too low, and bubbles form. When those bubbles collapse, they strike like hammers. They carve pits into steel. They shake ships. They destroy propellers. For decades, engineers fought back with stronger alloys, new shapes, slower speeds. But cavitation never vanished. Then came an idea borrowed from golf. In 2025, engineers tested propellers with dimples etched near their tips. Just a few, barely visible. The effect was dramatic. The dimples created tiny swirls of water, stabilizing the pressure before bubbles could appear. Cavitation dropped by as much as 95%, without new engines, without exotic metals, just surface texture. It was a quiet victory. And it revealed something profound. Sometimes the key to flow is not more strength, but more sensitivity. The thin line of control. The boundary layer is easy to overlook. Thin, fragile, almost invisible. Yet every lift, every drag, every bit of noise comes from it. Most of the time, it's ignored until it misbehaves. Over the years, engineers discovered other ways to shape it. Instead of dimples, they used tiny fins called vortex generators. These don't force the air. They stir it, creating small whirlwinds that energize the boundary layer, keeping it attached longer. In the 1980s, NASA tested them. They worked, quietly, reliably. Later, wind turbines began adopting them. German firm Smart Blade added vortex generators near the base of blades, where drag was highest. The payoff? More torque, more power, more energy drawn from the wind. Only a 2% gain per turbine, but across hundreds, it meant millions of extra kilowatt hours. And it came from fins no bigger than your hand. Like dimples, they showed us something important. The flow doesn't need to be forced. It only needs to be nudged. Propellers inspired by dolphins. Not every idea comes from machines. Some are borrowed from life itself. Dolphins don't have dimples, but their skin isn't smooth either. It shifts with tiny textures that guide water. This reduces drag and noise, helping them glide with little effort. Researchers in China copied this principle, blending it with lessons from golf balls. They designed coatings for ship propellers, flexible, textured, nearly invisible. These didn't just reduce pressure drag. They cut friction drag too, guiding turbulence so it worked with the blade instead of against it. In long-distance trials, over 35,000 nautical miles, ships saved nearly 2% in fuel. That sounds small, but for vessels burning tons of fuel every hour, it meant over $140,000 saved in a year. Some versions even use water-repelling materials to glide more easily. Whether from dolphin skin or dimples, the lesson was the same. Efficiency begins on the surface, where no one looks. The power of small changes. It's easy to focus on engines, on thrust, on raw power. The loud, the obvious. But history keeps showing us. The biggest breakthroughs are often small, silent, hidden in plain sight. A dented golf ball, a ripple in a stream, a coating thinner than a fingernail. What began as an accident in 1905 became a guidebook, teaching us to shape flow instead of fighting it. Dimples, vortex fins, dolphin skin coatings, all speak a single language. Not one of domination, but of understanding. Because in the end, air and water were never the enemy. They were always waiting to help.